Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, Chapter 33. Beelzebub as a Professional Hypnotist. Beelzebub continued to relate further as follows. When I existed among your favorites as a professional hypnotist, I made my elucidating experiments upon their psyche, chiefly by means of that said particular state of theirs, which the contemporary beings there call the hypnotic state. For bringing them into this state, I had at first recourse to the same means by which the beings of the period of the Ticleomycian civilization brought each other into this state, namely by acting upon them with my own Gurdjieff. But when later, there often began to arise in my common presence the being impulse called love of kind, and apart from my personal aims, I had to produce this said state in very many three-brained beings there for their personal benefit. And as this means proved very harmful for my being existence, I invented another means, thanks to which I obtained the same effect, without the expenditure of my own Gurdjieff. I then invented, and very soon became expert in, quickly changing the mentioned difference of the filling of the blood vessels by means of a certain hindering of the movement of the blood in certain blood vessels. By means of this hindering, I obtained the result that although the already mechanized tempo of the blood circulation of their waking state remained in beings, yet at the same time, their real consciousness, that is, the one which they themselves call subconsciousness, began also to function. This new means of mine proved, of course, incomparably better than that which is used even up till now by beings of your planet, who make the person they hypnotize gaze at a shining or brilliant object. It cannot be denied that, as I've already told you, it is possible to bring them into such a psychic state by making them fix their gaze on a brilliant or bright object. But not all beings there, not by a long way, the reason being that although from their fixed gaze on a shining object there may proceed in their general blood circulation the change of the filling of the blood vessels, nevertheless, the chief factor for this must be the, on their part, intentional or automatic concentration of thought and feeling. And this latter can be obtained in them either from an intense expectation or from the process proceeding in them which they express by the word faith, or from the arising emotion of the sensation of fear of something about to happen, or finally from the function already contained within the presence of the given being, which they call passions, for instance, hate, love, sensuality, curiosity, and so on and so forth. That is why in beings called there hysterical, in whom there is lost temporarily or forever the possibility of concentration of thought and feeling, it is impossible by means of fixing their gaze upon a shining object to obtain in their blood circulation the change of the difference of the filling of the blood vessels, and hence it is almost impossible to obtain in them this said hypnotic state. But by the means I invented, namely a definite action upon the blood vessels themselves, it was possible to bring into this state not only anyone you please of these three-brained beings who have taken your fancy, but even also many one-brained and two-brained beings breeding there, as for instance various what they call quadrupeds, fishes, birds, and so on and so forth. But as regards the said impulse, love of kind, which led me to seek for a new means of bringing your favorites into such a state which had already become proper to them, this arose in me and gradually became dominant in me for a while, chiefly because during these therapeutic activities of mine, Ordinary three-brained beings there, belonging to all castes, here, there, and everywhere, soon began to love and esteem me, and to consider me almost as one sent to them from above to help them to deliver themselves from their pernicious habits. In short, they began to manifest towards me their most sincere, almost genuine being impulse of oskolniku, or as they themselves say, thankfulness and gratitude. This being oskolniku, or gratitude, was manifested towards me, not only by those I saved, and by those nearest to them, but by almost everybody who had been in this or another way in contact with me or who had heard of me, but only with the exception of those professionals among them who were their physicians. These latter, on the contrary, hated me in the extreme, and would strain every nerve to impair somehow the good feelings which arose in ordinary beings towards me, and they hated me simply because I very soon became their serious rival. Strictly speaking, they had indeed cause to hate me, because already after only a few days of my therapeutic activities, hundreds of patients used to attend my daily consultations, and hundreds of others tried to become clients of mine, while my poor rivals had to sit for long periods in their famous offices and impatiently wait for any odd patient who might stray in like a lost sheep. They waited for these lost sheep with great impatience, because certain of these latter were transformed into what are called milch cows, from which they milk, as was already customary there, that something which they defined by the word oof, or dough. All the same, justice demands this to be said for them, that during recent times it was indeed quite impossible to exist there without this oof, and particularly for those three-brained beings who are there, the contemporary famous physicians. And so, my boy, I began my activities in the capacity of a physician-therapist, as I've already told you, in the center of the continent Asia, in various towns of Turkestan. I was first in the town of that part of Turkestan, which later came to be called Chinese Turkestan, in contradistinction to that part of it which, from the time of its conquest by beings belonging to the large community Russia, has been called Russian Turkestan. There was a very great need in the towns of Chinese Turkestan for such a physician as I then became, because among the three-brained beings breeding on this part of the surface of this planet of yours, there was developed at that period, more strongly than usual, two forms of their most pernicious, what are called organic habits, which also had become proper to be acquired in the presences of the beings of that ill-fated planet. One of these pernicious organic habits was what is called there the smoking of opium, and the other was the chewing of anasha, or as it is otherwise named, hashish. They obtained this opium, as you already know, from the plant poppy, and hashish from a surplanetary formation there called chakla, or hemp. As I've just said, at this period of my activities, my existence passed at first chiefly in various towns of Chinese Turkestan, but circumstances so fell out that later I preferred to be in the towns of Russian Turkestan. Here among the beings of Russian Turkestan, one of the said pernicious habits, as they themselves call them vices, namely the smoking of opium, was very rare, and the chewing of anasha was even rarer. But on the other hand, the use of what is called Russian vodka flourished luxuriantly there.